Okay, here's something interesting. If anybody really wants to know the information. I wanted to know how old this tire was. Everybody knows how to date a modern day tire. Now the question is even if you buy a reproduction tire, usually on the backside it has all the modern day coatings on it. Okay, it gives you the load range, it gives you the date of production to the month, it gives you the temperature rating, the load rating, it gives you all that stuff on there. That stuff didn't come into apply to 1979. Okay, so I look at the tire and there's actually no indications on it, so that tells me this tire is older than 1979. How much older? I don't know. I did find the chart for 1979, and in 1979 they made the Delta 784. It doesn't say nothing about Supreme or anything else on it, and I got the load ratings off of that. You could see it. It's blurry to me, so it's getting blurry to you. It says Delta load range B, which that says on there, 784. The tread life is 100. I think the temperature was B. Tread life was 100. Traction was a B, and temperature and resistance is a C. So now, if that was a modern day radial, you wouldn't even buy that tire. Because when you look at a modern day radial, you'll see 3, 4. I've seen as high as 800 on that. They were graded a little different. I read the whole thing about it. Okay, because I wasn't sure how the grading worked and why the numbers were so low. And if you follow through this, it's not just a chart, it's the complete article talking about, and it continues on with more tires. So every tire ever made, they have a list of. And it explains how the whole system came about and how they come up with the numbers. Because I always wondered about the numbers, because I've seen tires with 300 or 340 outlast tires that are 600. And basically how it's done, and I don't think it's changed that much, is they take a given tire that they know is going to wear a certain way and test it at the same time they're going to test the test tire through the same condition at the same time, and they monitor the wear of the new tire versus the wear of the predetermined tire. And according to this article, I don't know how much it's changed, they break the tires in for 800 miles so they can they talk about so they become round and they can handle the load index and all whatever it is. Then they tested them for, I read it, I don't know if it was 2,400 miles or something like that, 6,400 miles. And every 800 miles they stopped and they would check the depth of the tire and measure the temperature of the tire. So in reality, just because a car has a higher number doesn't mean the tire is going to last any longer. It just means for the first 6,400 miles it's going to last longer. Just like when they do the ratings on a car, when you hear the advertisements for a car, they only do it for the first year, first 6 months. So as long as the car makes it that time with no problems, it gets an A rating. If the car falls apart a year and a half into it, there's no records of it anymore. So that's why, as me working for a car manufacturer knows, that the first year or so they really don't want any claims on the car. That's why they've lengthened the oil changes. That's, with the synthetic oil, that's why they've done all this stuff, taking the maintenance away, because the cost of annual ownership is right there on the Maroni label when you buy a car. So if they can eliminate any kind of maintenance work to the best of their ability, the cost of ownership is only the gas and the one oil change, because that's basically what it comes down to now. So I don't know if you find that interesting. I find anything with tires interesting, and that was something I didn't know. I didn't know when the dates. Well, that's actually a different subject, because this and radials came into effect roughly the same time. I think radials, they said, came in a little sooner. I thought it said it in the article, or a little later. It was very close to each other. And the early dating systems wasn't dated to go into the 2000s. So the date might have read 38. So it was the 30th week of 8. But you didn't know if that was 78, 88, 98. Then they finally smartened up and they put 2 digits at the end. So you know if it says 15, it's 2015, because you would know if it was. Well, with that, my battery went dead. So I'll just finish this off by saying I love information. Information I can understand, I love. I love to have it. It's pretty cool. You know, you always get the one guy that's going to question you, and you don't know if he knows the answer already. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. We were at the swap meet, had a bunch of guys. I stayed away from the American, because every time I walked up to the American, people swarmed me on it, because they just don't see these cars, you know. I've owned it all these years, owned it 15 years, but it's out so infrequently now that people just think it's a new car on the scene. But to make a long story short, I had a bunch of guys looking at the car, and one guy was all over the car looking at it. I guess looking at it, comparing to what he had. He had the same year, same everything. And there was other people there, and we were talking about spare tires, and I said, oh, I got the factory spare tire in this car, never used. But by that time, I already had the Super Tricks and everything laying on them, so I moved the blankets out of the way, and I peeled the cover back, and there's a spare tire. Nice, you know, the buyer's tire. It's a Silverton. I think that's how you pronounce the tire. Factory tire on there. And there's a little label on there that says tire pressure set by dealer or something like that on there. And the person turned to me and goes, wow, look, it even has that label on it. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? And he goes, yeah. And we walked away. I've had more people comment to me about that label than a Rambler people. But the label's from a Mitsubishi. Look, that's my...